Hi, and welcome to the Volunteer 101 training, an overview of Camp Kessem's volunteer role to watch before your program director arrives for fall training. My name is Marge Lobeck, or Mama. I'm a manager of programs with Kessem, and over the next few minutes, we're going to be walking through the overall responsibilities for your role. The volunteer role is not only great because it's a microphone to engage, train, and bond everybody on campus, but to really help your chapter reach greater heights. Before we dive in a quick minute, I'm going to remind you that you should be watching these videos in conjunction with your chapter workbook videos and the homework. In order to make the most of your in-person training, all of the assigned homework should be completed before your program director arrives. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to your chapter directors. Let's start by going through your role. So, the first part about your role is that you're responsible for recruiting, training, engaging, and recognizing Kessem members during the year. And Kessem members includes, but is not limited to, general body members, committee members, and camp counselors. So I know in the past some people have typically leaned towards engaging solely their camp counselors and the people that attend camp, but we want to see you engage a wider variety of people throughout the entirety of the year. You're also responsible for the recruitment of quality, diverse counselors from your university to meet the 3-to-1 ratio of campers to counselors at camp. In addition to that, you're responsible for complying with training guidelines and standards to run a successful training program and preparing counselors for camp. And lastly, you're responsible for organizing events and recognizing and celebrating your volunteers because, let's face it, everybody's really doing a great job in terms of taking their own time to make this mission happen. And the last thing that we're looking for in this role is a coordinator commitment to developing an even more inclusive and diverse chapter culture through developing relationships between those within and surrounding your organization. So we don't want you to just take what you have been given over the course of the past few years in terms of student leaders. We want you to be engaging other student organizations on campus, reaching out to new people, and continuing to include other people on campus, even if they're not going to camp, to ensure that Kessem is engaging for everyone who wants to support a child through and beyond a parent's cancer. Let's discuss changes for this year. Kessem continues to be committed to developing an even more diverse and inclusive committee structure throughout the year to better support your chapter. So if you have a committee structure that works, be sure to talk to your program director to ensure that it's something that's implemented throughout the year, it's making your chapter go to new heights, and also that your committee structure is inclusive of everyone who wants to be involved. If you don't yet have a committee structure, or maybe yours from last year didn't work, which is okay, we're going to recommend that you move towards task force committees. So during a certain point of the year, we want you to do a few committees really, really well. Whether that means a recruitment committee for volunteer, or maybe a Make the Magic committee leading up to the event, we want your committees to have things to do, to feel recognized, to feel like they can get a little bit of training and feel involved in your chapter, but not something that's going to be an extra amount of work for you as a coordinator. And your program director will talk to you a lot more about that during your fall training. Another new thing that we have within the workbook that we'll be walking through as well in the next video is that new member resource document. And so this is developed in order for new members who sign on, who don't know anything, have received no training, and unfortunately aren't super included in fall training, can walk through this document and understand our brand guidelines, standards, as well as how to send an in-kind donation letter or anything else to really support your chapter. So hopefully if you provide them with this document, you as a coordinator can give them the training, but also ensure that they have the tools to do the job and support your chapter even further. And then one last piece is including Kessem members in training. So obviously when counselor training rolls around, what we typically see is that committee members drop off and no longer have as much impact as we would have hoped. And this year what we're looking for is there are certain trainings within your workbook that we'd recommend that you include all Kessem members in. And this is in order to make them feel like they're getting some training, even if they're not attending camp, and able to bond with everybody outside of just being a committee member while counselors are over here. Other standards that have changed, they're predominantly the same, but we are restructuring standards, which means that there are a few options for you. Well, not options. There's 3 different kinds of standards you're going to be graded on. One is going to be the to-do tracker standards, which is within your workbook. So if you do something on time and you complete that to-do tracker standard, you'll mark it as yes. The second standards that are really, really important, particularly for you who manage the committees, is there are all member and all coordinator standards. And so there are certain standards that are meant to be met by every single person involved in your organization, not just a coordinator, to really hold everybody accountable. And the third kind of standard is just the typical volunteer standards that you would find within your role. So counselor training certification, this year we're going to require that a minimum of 5 individuals complete this in order to ensure that there's diverse people doing the counselor trainings. Nobody wants to see me or one person up there the whole time, in order to ensure that people are really getting the LOL, getting the best out of your training possible. And then the second piece is the counselor interview certification. And we're going to require a minimum of 4 individuals who complete this to ensure that you don't just have one person making a decision about counselor interviews. Feel free to talk to your chapter directors about that if you have any questions. And just remember, you can't really do anything until you've actually recruited members. So make sure to put that step first before you start finding counselors and things like that. We want to put a lot of commitment towards finding people that are a great fit for your chapter and people that, you took the time to find and engage rather than just picking from the people you already know. So just some general things to remember. The first is to always check your central resources table. If you don't have the answer or you need extra ideas to get something done, make sure to check this first in terms of how-to guides, ready-to-make templates, case studies, and best practices across the country of what chapters are doing to make themselves successful. Don't forget to check here before you ask other questions to other people as well. The second is to prioritize time management. Think of camp as a very, very long-term project that is coordinated through your workbooks and through your resources, and this is essential to making your team function as a whole. And so typically what we'd recommend is that you effectively manage your team throughout the year using these resources like a workbook, like the resources, in order to maintain your project work. This is where your PD will be looking to track what you're doing and ensure that everything's getting done on time. Your ability to utilize the engagement calendar and plan ahead will pay off in member retention as well, or at least that's our hope. So in your homework, you have a calendar that's expected to plan the entire year so that instead of reacting to a lot of the events you're trying to host, you're going to be more proactive and people will be able to attend because they'll know that they're happening. And the last piece, and something for you to remember, is really how do you feel valued in your chapter? And a lot of the things come out in terms of friendships that they're getting from KESM, training that they're receiving, recognition in general for the work that they're doing, and also having an impact on children through and beyond a parent's cancer. And you are the face of the student body in order to ensure that people are feeling connected to the mission and feeling valued within this organization. So continue to ask yourself that question as you're kind of moving through this year. So thanks for watching. Please feel free to give any questions to your chapter directors. Otherwise, see you in our next video.